Two visions for the future of Texas. The top candidates in the race for governor squared off on the debate stage.
I believe in a path for citizenship for the dreamers. Therefore, we need to prepare them to be here and be educated.
With ideas for where Texas is now and where we should go in the future.
The important thing that we do in the state of Texas is our job first is to make sure we educate Texas students.
We tracked a group of undecided voters to see what they thought of the candidates and if the debate changed any minds.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. The candidates for governor have spoken. The one and only debate between Lupe Valdez and Greg Abbott is now complete. Both candidates shared their thoughts on the issues facing Texas, ranging from immigration to property taxes, Harvey relief, and toll roads. We watched the debate along with a group of undecided voters divided among Democrats, Republicans, and independents. They reacted to candidates' answers using a dial system. When they liked what they heard, they turned the dials upward. When they didn't like it, they turned the dials down. We recorded all the responses using a real-time graph which showed the lines moving up and down depending on what people in the focus group thought. The red lines represent the Republican reaction. Democrats are in blue and the independents are in yellow. When the lines hover near the middle, that means that these people felt neutral about what the candidates are saying. So let's get started. We asked, in the aftermath of mass shootings, students say they feel that they're not safe in school. We asked the candidates if they think arming teachers is the answer. Only Republicans in our focus group liked the idea of arming teachers, while other ideas the candidates talked about were more popular.
We continually fortify our schools, but we won't invest in education. We want to arm our teachers, but we won't pay them as the professionals that they are. I believe they should be there to teach and take care of the children as they're doing now.
The main thing that came out was, for one, we have to enforce current law. Number two, the state must provide better mental health resources for students at school, for people in our state. And then the last thing is we got to make sure that we provide alternatives in our school for them to be more secure. Some schools want to have metal detectors, other schools want to have other strategies. We need to give schools the strategies they choose to make sure their students are safe.
Now, for some perspective, we turn to our roundtable. We're joined by Joy Diaz, the producer for Texas Standard on KUT Public Radio, Lauren McGaughy, the Texas government reporter for Dallas Morning News, and Carlos Sanchez, the news and politics editor for the Texas Monthly. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
So we saw the lines going up and down. What was your reaction to what they were saying beyond just arming teachers in schools?
Well, I thought it was interesting that when Governor Abbott started to talk about mental health, it looked like everyone was interested in that. All the lines kind of went up, yellow, blue, and red. But then when he started to talk about maybe giving the schools a little bit more of a say over whether they wanted to bring those guns in the schools, the blue line just dipped straight down. So, I mean, no surprise, right? Everyone wants kids to have access to more services, but when it comes to the guns in the classrooms, it's a pretty big split.
It'll be interesting too. I saw the lines diminish when what Governor Abbott was saying approximated talking points. And I'm just curious to see how the focus group will react when it's very obvious that talking points are at play.
And we know that mental health is like a big umbrella that is often used because the community that is affected by the lack of funding when it comes to mental health hates the fact that they're always scapegoated when it comes to the use of guns.
Well, we asked the candidates also about whether they support red flag laws, and Governor Abbott did not, and neither did Democrats nor independents like that.
Would not support a red flag law that would take guns away from people without due process.
This is not about continual gun violence. This is about stopping gun violence. I think the governor has confusion between gun ownership and gun violence. There is a difference between people who own guns and act appropriately and people who don't.
It kind of seems like it was neutral for a long time right there.
Yes, but it's super interesting because this was one of Lupe Valdez's finest moments during the debate where she, put the governor on the spot and she said, basically, are you confused when it comes to gun ownership or when it comes to gun violence? And that's a very interesting point to make when it comes to red flag.
What did you think, Lauren?
I think that what the governor said is tracked with what he has said before about red flag laws. He asked the legislature to look at them, and then, they seem to suddenly not be very popular with some people in his base. The gun groups didn't like them, so he said, you know what, maybe this isn't the right time to talk about this. And we saw his base respond very well to that. The Republicans liked him saying, I believe that red flag laws might be an infringement on the Second Amendment. So, that felt like a really partisan divide there as well. And I think what Carlos brought up about the talking points is really interesting, because on so many of these issues, we know how these candidates feel already. We know that they're going to be completely split. So I'm interested to see on some of the more unscripted moments, what they think of how, especially Lupe Valdez responded.
And Josh, that is an interesting point. I think you noted that in this particular question, the response was flatlined with regard to the focus group. I think that that's because they perhaps didn't know the nuance of red flag laws. And what we saw tonight was a bureaucratic sounding governor versus an impassioned candidate challenging the governor. And the question becomes, will voters respond to that passion, or will they respond to the notion of someone who is firmly in control of the bureaucracy of state government?
All right, let's keep it there for now. Some legislators have tried to overturn a state law that lets college students receive in-state tuition regardless of immigration status. Tonight, the candidates for governor told us where they stand on the issue.
The law is structured, is flawed, and it has to be fixed.
And you would
So
repeal
we're
it.
blaming the students for a broken immigration system? That's what we're doing.
Up next, we'll look closer at their answers and their ideas for the future of the Texas Dream Act. For the second question of the night, the candidates were asked about the Texas Dream Act. It allows undocumented students in Texas to pay in-state tuition at Texas universities. When asked whether or not he would repeal it, Governor Abbott said the law from 2014 was passed with good intentions, but has some flaws.
The law that passed said that these students who received in-state tuition had to demonstrate that they were on a pathway toward achieving legal status. However, there is no apparatus in the law to make sure that that, in fact, is being done. Hence, the law is structured, is flawed, and it has to be fixed.
And you would
So
repeal
we're
it.
blaming the students for a broken immigration system? That's what we're doing. We're blaming the students because they can't go through a decent immigration system, so we continue to blame them.
You saw there, it was pretty neutral until he said it had to be fixed, and Republicans spiked, and as soon as she started talking, it was back down.
I know. The thing with the Dream Act is super interesting. You always hear, this is a problem that I believe Lupe Valdez had in this debate, and it is that she did not change the rhetoric. What she said is what we've been hearing for a long time. I think the most convincing argument I've heard comes from the business community in Texas. And what the business community has said is, we want people to spend money in Texas. And how do you get people to earn more than minimum wage? Well, you educate them. And if you educate them, you have a spending crowd. And I think that makes sense. You have an educated workforce, they spend money. I think that's a more convincing rhetoric. However, I do understand what she was saying. You're blaming the students for not fixing an immigration system. But then again, the state of Texas cannot fix a federal immigration system.
Joy, I thought this was a question where very clearly it was passion versus policy. Governor Abbott talked in policy tones, and you had a flat line. Lupe Valdez began with a very passionate response, and her numbers spiked on terms of the response. I think this was her opportunity in the debate, and frankly, I think it was a missed opportunity ultimately. I think that she should have been more aggressive and more on the attack with Governor Abbott. This was an opening to talk about Senate Bill 4 and the implications it has for the Hispanic community and a large demographic in this state, and she did not take that opportunity.
She also didn't point out that the Texas Dream Act was a Republican proposal.
Absolutely.
This was a Rick Perry passed law that he was very proud of. And, you know, she could have said, you know, this was your own party that passed this, and now you're saying it's flawed. You know, where was that thought years ago? We've never had comprehensive immigration reform. She didn't say that either. So I did think that she, you know, she, like you said, was very passionate on the issue, but she did miss some entrees to attack Abbott for that. And I was curious to see if the bill is, if the law is flawed, what would be Abbott's fix? She didn't come back and say, well, then how would you fix it? Would you do away with it, or is there some other way?
Absolutely. The missed opportunity was just there, you know. Instead of focusing on what Texas cannot do as a state, it could have focused on what Texas can do, what you were mentioning, Senate Bill 4, and what would you do, Governor?
Yeah, and the flat line that you mentioned on the red and blue flat line when he started speaking in policy tones, right? That was surprising to me because the Texas Dream Act was a Republican proposal. I think that shows how the Republican Party nationally and in Texas has changed, because that was something that, you know, the red line maybe would have been a lot higher if it was Rick Perry talking about it, but now it's several years later and our views on immigration have changed.
All right, well, so who won the debate? As we said, we've been keeping score with our focus group of voters. A lot of other numbers out there. Who started the night undecided? See which candidate earned their support and what issues made the greatest impact. That's next on this special edition of State of Texas. Welcome back. We're taking an in-depth look at the Texas gubernatorial debate and the response from voters. Our Sally Hernandez joins us live from our newsroom where we gathered a group of undecided voters. Sally, tell us a little bit about this group. How did they respond to the debate?
Responded very well to a few topics, Josh, but one of the most notable topics when I was in the room with the focus group this evening is they had a very strong reaction to the topic of marijuana.
I'm in favor of expanding medical marijuana. Alcohol has no medical benefits, yet it's taxed and fined. We know that medical marijuana has some health benefits. Why can't we tax and fine those also?
I have seen, however, in other states that authorize that, abuses take place that raise concerns. So I'm still not convinced yet. However, one thing I don't want to see is jails stockpiled with people who have possession of small amount of marijuana.
You know, Josh, that topic probably got the most response from our voters this evening. And also, Lupe Valdez got a favorable response from our voters when she said she wanted to leave it up to the voters when it comes to expanding marijuana beyond medical use. And Governor Abbott also got a favorable response from the voters when he said he would consider loosening the punishment for 2 ounces or less of marijuana. Wanted to get back to the numbers here because before they left, we got a chance to ask this focus group. Remember, they came into the room as undecided voters, and I wanted to know if they were leaving with that same stance. So I had 2 questions for them that I wanted to share with you this evening. I said, in your opinion, who won the debate with the strongest performance? And 52% said Governor Greg Abbott did, 38% said Lupe Valdez, and 10% said neither. The other question, probably the most important for a lot of people, is after watching the debate, if the election were today, who would you vote for? 48% said Governor Greg Abbott, 43% said Lupe Valdez, and 10% were undecided. Josh?
All right, thank you for those numbers, Sally. That's very helpful. So we're back with our roundtable now. Let's start with the marijuana topic, and then we can come back to the numbers about who won the debate and everything after that. Were any of those numbers on the levels on the marijuana topic, were they surprising to you at all?
Not at all, because every time, at the Texas Standard, every time we report on marijuana, our numbers spike on our website. So it seems to be a topic of great interest to Texans. But, for several reasons, as Lupe Valdez mentioned, there's no medical, although some people would disagree, but no medical benefits to alcohol. And there's a lot of new research that is coming about the benefits of medical marijuana. So it's also interesting the position that medical marijuana has across the country, and not only across the country, but in the world, really. Laws in Mexico, people in Mexico are talking about this as well, and they're using it. Not only the conversation is not only about medical marijuana, but it's also about, can this be the thing that stops the war on drugs? So it's an interesting point to talk about. Very political.
So did she win that one?
Yeah, it looked like it. I mean, at least amongst the people in that room, her numbers looked much higher. And it's important to note that the Republican Party of Texas itself this year at their convention, they included in their platform a number of points that were very positive about expanding medical marijuana in the state of Texas, even, like we said, reducing criminality for small amounts of marijuana. So Republicans have had, a huge shift on the issue of marijuana, and this year really does seem to be the year where we're seeing it take hold, especially amongst voters.
In many states.
Yeah,
Yes.
Here, not just here, but even here in Red Texas.
Absolutely.
And that was the most surprising thing about this response tonight. It was the spike by those who identified themselves as Republicans. It was much higher than either the independents or the Democrats who were here tonight. And the spike was equally as dramatic in the negative side when Governor Abbott was addressing from his policy point of view.
What about those still undecided after the debate numbers that Sally talked about? 10% were still hadn't made up their mind after seeing everything we saw.
Well, I guess we'd have to ask them why they're undecided, right? Are they still here? I think, like Carlos said when we first started this out, there was a pretty stark difference between the personalities that you saw in that room tonight. There was Abbott, who, true to form, was very cautious. He had a lot of detail. He had a lot of policy points. Not the biggest rabble-rouser, not a bomb thrower, but, calm, collected. And then you saw, this kind of upstart Democrat that hasn't had a lot of TV time. What is she going to do? I thought she presented herself very well. I liked that she was looking at him directly a lot, looking across the podium instead of looking straight in to make it more of a debate style thing. But we were talking before we went to the break that she did miss some key openings to attack the governor on policy, and policy specifics have not been her strength. So maybe if she had a little bit more specifics.
And even, the understanding that she was not speaking to the governor, but that she was speaking to the state of Texas. She never once said, as your governor, I will do X. That missed opportunity of placing herself and taking position, of that podium as a possible governor of the state of Texas come November.
Josh, I think the numbers or high numbers of undecided at the end of the debate represent a strategic victory for the governor. This was basically Lupe Valdez's only opportunity to make an impact across Texas. And he insisted on a forum that was very sterile. It was a forum that didn't include a live audience, although one was nearby. The energy was
specifically for that.
Yes, the energy was missing from the room, and the energy that was missing, I think, translated itself to a high number of undecideds at the end of this debate.
Up next, what does it mean to be a Texan?
The way our fellow Texans responded to Hurricane Harvey. That's what Texas is all about.
Texans helping Texans. We do this quite well.
Both candidates share their stories of state pride, how their answers may have helped them sway some undecided voters.
Welcome back to our special edition of State of Texas. Both candidates in tonight's debate did well with our group of voters when they talked about what made them proud to be a Texan.
There's no moment in Texas history that has made me more proud than to see the way our fellow Texans responded to Hurricane Harvey. That's what Texas is all about. These people on their own who got their own boats out to go rescue other people. It didn't matter who you were, what race you were. All that matters is you were a Texan, and a Texan was going to help you out.
Thank you, Governor.
I came from the poorest zip code in San Antonio and a migrant worker, from crop fields to classroom to candidate. From the poorest zip code in San Antonio to be able to be the candidate for governor and the governor of Texas.
Sheriff.
Well, there you have it. That was a nice way to end. You have some final thoughts for us, Joy?
Well, the thing is, if you want to serve the state of Texas, you have to be proud of the state of Texas. And I believe politicians in the state are. I mean, if there's one thing that we are not lacking in the state is good self-esteem. And so it always makes us feel good to say Texas and that we're Texan and all this. So it was a beautiful note to end with. And I believe that they showed their humanity, even their vulnerabilities a little bit.
And the focus group liked it?
Yeah, I liked that they didn't attack each other. We saw that last week with the Beto Cruz. There was, Ted Cruz had a little dig for Beto O'Rourke at the end of that, you know, say something nice about the other candidate question. This one, they didn't try to make it about, you know, well, my opponent does this, I'm proud because of this. So I thought, you know, they both just said something that they felt proud of, and it was a good moment.
What did you think?
Ultimately, both of these candidates have very compelling personal stories, and that moment illustrated the compelling nature of their stories.
All right, well, thank you all for being with us. Thank you again for joining us for this special edition of State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back on Sunday to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.